Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 22 of the Dragon Radar podcast. We are your hosts, Heeroh and Ajoten. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well. I'm ready to get going with another discussion. How about yourself?
I'm also ready to go, so let's get started with Roshi's rant.
So,
This is Roshi's Rant.
So this is Roshi's rant, the first segment of the podcast where we deep dive into a topic regarding Dragon Ball. And this week, we're going with the big one. We've been waiting, and 22 episodes in, it's finally time, and it's not because we couldn't think of anything else this week. We decided on it. So, we're talking about Gogeta and Vegito. Who's better? The big one. So,
it's just to make so many people angry.
yeah, no matter who we pick, we're wrong. So, yeah, first thoughts, you want to anger people first?
I think the first thing you have to say is you can't consider the Boo arc Vegito anymore because he's just too out of date, in my opinion. They've both powered up. We've seen Vegito way past that now, and we've seen Gogeta way past that now. We've seen Blue God of both varieties. So to think all the way back to that Vegito is kind of a moot point at this point. I just think to say like, oh well, he did this back then, it doesn't really matter. It's like saying, oh well, Super Saiyan Goku back then is not as strong as Blue God Vegeta now. A moot point, I would say. I would say you have to consider the most recent iterations of both characters and go from there. I think it's the fairest way to look at them.
No, I agree.
Yeah. I think it's also important to take in mind that we can't just look at it as in who is the most powerful villain they defeated and say, well, okay, the most powerful person that Vegito fought was Zamasu. Well, Gogeta went up against Broly. Goku and Vegeta, who fused to become Gogeta, and the two people and the same guys who fused to become Vegito, aren't the same power levels. They're considerably stronger when they became Gogeta. So I don't think you can just say, well, one struggled against Zamasu, because whilst he was handling Zamasu, he was taking hits at the same time. He wasn't manhandling Zamasu the same way Gogeta was absolutely handling Broly. Like Blue God Gogeta was he didn't get a hit in. Broly did not get a hit in. It was no competition. Whereas whilst Vegeta was winning, Zamasu was hitting him. It was a fight. It wasn't a beating, and I think that's something important to bear in mind. But there have been multiple Zenkai power-ups, at least, never mind training, since that fight. I mean, in that arc alone, Goku and Vegeta had a battering since they separated in the Goku Black arc after that. So they would have had a power-up at least once in that arc alone. And then they've been in multiple arcs since then. So they would have had massive power-ups. I think it's very important to bear in mind.
I think the thing that people discuss the most is just the simple fact of who's more powerful, and both have their own fanboys and stuff. And to be honest, I don't really think it's much of a competition for me on who's more powerful. I think that's pretty obvious at this point, surely. Okay, I'll be the one to say it. Gogeta is more powerful.
I'm just trying to remain objective.
Like the way you said, you can't really compare the villains that they faced, which is Zamasu and Broly at the time, I guess. But they're fighting, the way they fight is different. To me, Vegito seems more in control of himself, if that makes sense. He seems more like Goku and Vegeta somehow. Like, he seems like a character, whereas Gogeta seems like a machine almost, where he's doing things just for damage. Even the way he talks is like, I don't know, almost robotic in a way. I don't know what it is. Like, Gogeta is so confident in himself where it makes him stand out because, you know, he knows he's able to defeat anyone pretty much. Whereas Vegito actually discusses things, he's talking, and he's not overly like cocky. He is a bit, obviously, but he's not as cocky as Gogeta, and he knows that there is weaknesses, and he knows that there's things that need to happen. Especially during the Boo arc, I guess, when he's fighting Boo, he rationalizes the fact that, okay, we need to do this, and we're gonna get absorbed by Boo so we can get on the inside, that type of thing. He's not like Gogeta, where Gogeta would just be, I'm gonna defeat you right now, and here we go, we're fighting. You know, Vegito actually strategizes, whereas Gogeta is just attack, attack, attack. I think that's the difference between the two.
Gogeta is literally, to me, he's the savage part of Vegeta and the love of the fight of Goku.
Yeah.
Whereas it's literally the opposite way around, maybe.
Yeah, I think Vegeto's more like the
it's like Goku is, he's a master martial artist.
Yeah.
You've seen him when he fights Hit and stuff like that. Like when he fought Hit in base form, he blocked Hit and punched Hit. Like nobody can say they did that.
Yeah, he is still a strategist at the end of the day. He knows what he's doing in a fight to take an advantage, and I think Vegito is more like that.
Yeah, and I think so. He's I think that part takes over Vegito. So I do see what you mean. So I think they are polar opposites, and I think maybe that's the point. But I think it would be pointless for them not to do that. To have Potara fusion and fusion, it's I think it would be pointless for them to be the exact same character, just with different names and slightly different designs. I think they have to have some type of difference in them. And Gogeta is definitely more cocky than Vegito.
100%.
I mean, from what I've seen, I do believe Gogeta is stronger because whilst I'm trying to remain objective and saying that there are power differences and that you have to bear in mind that there have been power-ups from the Vegito that we saw, and there have been Zenkai boosts and training and everything like that. You would have to bear in mind that the amount of power-ups that they would have to have had to go from Vegito beating Zamasu, or he had the upper hand. He didn't beat him, but he had the upper hand. But he was still fighting him. To seeing that Gogeta was toying with Broly, which is what he was doing. There is no way anybody can say anything else than he was toying with Broly. It would basically be that the Goku and Vegeta that were separated at that point in the Broly film would be so strong that they would toy with someone like Zamasu alone in their own base forms. That's how strong they would be by this point. That's how powerful they would have to be now, if not stronger. And I don't think they're at that point. I don't see it. Like, I don't know that's the case, but I don't think they've gotten that strong.
No,
I think that I don't see it. I don't see any evidence to support that. Like Zamasu was hella strong, and
we don't know for sure who is stronger between Zamasu and Broly, of course, because they'll never fight each other. But also, you've got to assume that just because it's Dragon Ball,
superheroes, you never know. It's,
maybe,
it's chaos, that show.
But I guess just because it's Dragon Ball, they always go, here's a villain, now here's the next villain who's slightly stronger, then here's the next villain who's slightly stronger, and blah, blah, blah. So if they keep that order, then Broly is probably stronger than Zamasu, maybe. But even if not, just the way they fight between each other, like you've already mentioned, Vegito was getting hit a few times here and there. You know, he was putting up a fight and he was in control, but he was also still being hit a few times. Whereas Gogeta didn't get hit ever.
He wasn't even close to getting hit.
No, and I get not counting GT because I don't want to talk about GT. It's separate. But even the Dragon Ball Z movies, which I know are also not canon, but they were at least written by the same people. So yeah, we seen Gogeta in the Janemba film, and similar to in the Broly film, he shows up, he deals damage, he leaves, he doesn't get hit. So it's like, yeah, I understand.
He deletes Janemba.
Yeah, he completely
in
destroys
seconds.
Janemba.
He deletes him.
Yeah.
Like there's no hesitation.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, they brought Gogeta back in the Broly film for the first time since then, and he does exactly the same thing. So it's like they fully liked Gogeta as a character. They just didn't make him full canon until the Broly film, I guess. But they were a fan, and when they thought, okay, we can actually do it now, it worked. And to be honest, I can't really remember, but they didn't mention. Well, Vegeta was still kind of like, oh, I don't want to fuse with you type of thing, but he did it. But I can't remember if they said, are we doing this again? Like, I never wanted to do this again or something. I don't think they did. But they also never mentioned this is going to be the first time we're doing this. Which is why I'm thinking, are they kind of hinting at the Janemba film, even though it wasn't canon that they've done this before?
I can't remember. I'd have to watch it back.
Yeah.
I think maybe if he said I'm not doing this again, maybe he was just referring to the Patara and the fact that they fused in some capacity before.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
He just doesn't like being in the same body as Goku.
Yeah.
Because they did mess up the fusion, remember? So they're
true.
not practiced at it. Whereas you find that Goten and Trunks can just do it like that. Whereas obviously I think there was a hint that they struggle at it in the new film. I think it might have been hinted at.
Maybe.
I'm not for sure, but that's because they haven't done it in a while. I think that was hinted at. I'm not 100% sure. Because there's been a time of peace or something. So it's like if you're not practiced at it, you're not going to do it. But once they were doing it all the time, Goten and Trunks could just do it constantly. But if you're not practiced at it, you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, of course. So
they let Frieza to get battered by Broly.
Yeah, but I guess as a character, we have seen Vegito more. He was prominent throughout the Zamasu arc a lot longer than Gogeta was around for the Broly film. And because of this, we know the character a bit more. And as well, like, he was around in the Buu arc and stuff, and, you know, had the fight. So we know more about Vegito. We know more about what he's capable of, how powerful he is. Whereas we don't really know the limits of Gogeta. He's never had a challenge yet. He's never went all out because he hasn't needed to. So we don't know how powerful someone needs to be just to land a hit on Gogeta yet. But as a character, I prefer Vegito more, just because we know more about him, and he is the strategist side of Goku. And, you know, they actually think about it before they do things. Even when Buu was about to absorb them, that was the plan. They wanted to be absorbed or turned into chocolate so that Buu would eat them and they could be inside Buu. Whether they really planned for that, I mean, it did work, but, you know, it might not have worked. But yeah, even as they were turned into chocolate, they were fighting Buu as a piece of candy. And, you know, they were just that little ball flying around, just basically jabbing into Buu. And Buu was just like, what the hell is going on here? We can't touch him.
Well, I would wholly argue that Goku and Vegeta should never, ever, and I mean ever, use Vegito ever again in the entirety of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, they don't need to. Like, why?
No, I think it would be a poor decision, regardless of who is stronger. They should never use it again because of how wholly unreliable he is, based on the fact that when he was fighting Zamasu, why did they lose? Because they defused because they were too powerful.
Mm.
So his time, how long they are fused together, is based on how strong they are.
Mm.
And literally, they were on top of him, they were battering him down, and then they just defused.
Yeah.
Whereas with Gogeta, they have half an hour. It's as simple as that. That's it done.
Yeah.
Whereas they don't know the limitations of the Potara. The rules keep changing, and the stronger they get, the less time they're going to have. At a critical time, they defused, and they arguably could have lost without Trunks' super sword.
Mm.
So, basically, they should never ever use the Potara again. They should just use the Potara, totally unreliable, and that to me means that Vegito should not be utilized.
No, I don't think he
even
needs
if
to come back.
Vegito was stronger, I think it's too risky.
Yeah, because even if he was stronger, he'd be around for maybe 2-3 minutes max.
Yeah,
and
that's not a guarantee that you could defeat the big bad.
Yeah,
like Broly, took him longer than 2-3 minutes to kill him. I mean, could Gogeta have done it sooner? Yes, probably, but maybe he couldn't. I mean, when we reacted to the fight, I mean, and we also had the discussion about did Gogeta go too far? I think we both said that Gogeta could have done it a lot quicker if he wanted to kill him. I mean, so he could have probably done it in 2 or 3 minutes. But other big bads, is that the case?
probably.
Could they be during in 2-3 minutes? Are they strong enough? Yeah, it's like, and then there's a whole discussion: is Jiren stronger? Is Broly stronger? That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah,
that the internet would hate us for as well.
I agree. The Potara earrings, there's no need for Vegito anymore. I think they should be kept for lesser characters at this point. Like for, I don't know. Let's see a Trunks Goten fusion through the Potara earrings. What's that going to be like? Who knows? Or any other characters, you know? Let's do a Piccolo Gohan.
I was literally about to say that. That would be some horrible mutation, though.
Yeah.
That would be terrifying.
Because since you need to be the same, like, well, you don't need to be the same height for the Potara, for the fusion dance, because Goku and Vegeta are very different heights.
The hair are the same height.
Yeah, almost, yeah. But, I mean, that was hinted at, to be honest. That was a thing. When they first introduced the fusion dance, they're like, oh, you've got to be similar builds and stuff, which is why Piccolo and it was Krillin, I think. Was it them two who were showing how to do it? They didn't fuse because they were completely different builds, and they're like, oh, you've got to be similar, which is why they gave it to the kids instead, because they were the same height. But then Goku and Vegeta can do it, and it's like, well, they're not the same height, not even close, really.
I think they just said muscly men. That'll do.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Leave the Pataras for someone else who can.
Fighters?
Yeah, why not? Why not? That would be good. Tien and Piccolo are similar heights. That would be interesting.
Tien and Yamcha or something like that.
Yeah. See Tien with hair.
What is it, like 10? Like they said 10 times or something like that. Like
something like that. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
You would actually take you would actually take a relatively, I wouldn't say weak, but weak compared to your Saiyans, and you would make them relatively viable fighters.
That's the thing, though, actually, because originally the Potara earrings are like, if you do this, then you're fused forever. And that's just because it was only weak people who were fusing, and found out over time that the stronger you are, the less time you fuse together. If someone like Piccolo and Tien fused, they could be fused together for maybe, a year? Potentially, because they're not on the same power, not even close to the same power level as the Saiyans. So they could be fused for a long time. But also, in a situation where there is a major threat and Goku and Vegeta aren't around, that might be a sacrifice they just need to take.
Yeah.
You know?
But I would say, I mean, the Kais were saying this, and the Kais, in the grand scheme of things, aren't that strong. Like I would say Piccolo and Tien and that these days are stronger than the Kais, or much stronger than the Kais.
Yeah.
So I would say they would be merged a lot less time than what the Kais would consider a long time. So yeah, like I would think they would be like a year at the most. Because
or even potential they could just use the Dragon Balls to unmerge them.
yeah, I don't think that would be out their power.
Potentially.
The thing is, Kefla, when she was merged, so Caulifla and Kale, when they got hit with Goku's Kamehameha, it broke the Potara, and that's what defused them. So could they not just smash the Potara?
Maybe. Who knows?
Have they changed it to the fact that that's all it takes?
Potentially.
Have they changed it? I don't know if that's a retcon.
Or maybe it was just kind of like the whole Gogeta trying to destroy Broly thing where last second he got teleported away. And it was like last second the beam hit, but also the time ran out because that's just how long the Pataras lasted for them. And then they broke up as soon as they were hit.
Yeah, because it focused on the A's where it actually smashed. Like actually focused at the beam smashed. The beam smashed the earrings.
Yeah. Maybe.
But I mean, they were very powerful, Kale
were.
and Caulifla at that time.
Yeah. I guess getting back on topic of Gogeta and Vegito.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're both in agreement, at least anyway, that Gogeta is probably stronger. But
I think he's just more viable as well.
Yeah.
So I think even regardless of, even if they were the exact same strength level, Gogeta's the option.
Yeah.
Due to practicalities.
Yeah, and yeah, even though Gogeta's stronger, I still prefer Vegito as a character. Well, his characteristics are better, I think, more of a strategist and stuff. Whereas Gogeta's just, let's attack and win. But
see, I enjoy the savagery of Gogeta.
Yeah, I do too, but just because we haven't seen him much, and every time, well, both times we have seen him, I guess, it is just one and done very quickly. It's like, you need more to build on, and so far that's all we've got, so we don't really know much about him.
I think it's just because I like this, because he's got the, because like I said, I think it's a savagery of old school Vegeta and the love of the fight of Goku, and it's like Vegeta's stepping back from that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I like to keep that part in the show. Because he's behaving a little bit these days, Vegeta. Not wholly, but a little bit. So I would like to keep that part in the show, because I've always liked that about Vegeta. Like, I've liked that he's always kind of been a bit crazy. So I do like that. And plus the cockiness is always a bit funny. Because he was just a straight up savage. So I do like that. So I do prefer Gogeta. Just the Vegito thing, I think highly impractical. So I personally prefer Gogeta.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we have different opinions, so we can both, disappoint multiple people. So yeah, I prefer Vegito, even though I think Gogeta is more powerful, and you prefer Gogeta, and also think he's more powerful. Well, potentially, depending on how long Potara could last. But yeah, I think we can wrap up that segment there. So let's move on now to the Hall of Fame.
Let's go.
And now it is time for the Hall of Fame.
Now it's time for this week's Hall of Fame, where myself and Heeroh battle it out to see who is most worthy to enter this week's Hall of Fame. Last week it was who made the worst mistake in Dragon Ball. Myself chose Vegeta allowing Cell to absorb Android 18 intentionally. And Heeroh, you chose Goku causing the Tournament of Power.
Yep.
You have the results?
I do have the results, and the winner with 73% of the vote is Vegeta, allowing Cell to absorb Android 18. So yeah, you're halfway to equaling my streak.
I'm on a roll. Finally.
3 in a row.
Finally.
Oof. But yeah, what is the topic this week?
Yes, and this week's topic is who deserves their own standalone film.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so literally, we've all done kind of a mini script, haven't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've wrote a lot.
I have not. I am not a film writer, so I've done a brief cliff note on mine.
Yeah, but basically, this topic was like, some characters have already had standalone films. Like Trunks has had a few standalone films. I guess Goten and Trunks, well, Kid Trunks at least, had their standalone film against Broly. Goku's had plenty. Gohan's had a few. So, and the upcoming superhero film, that is kind of his standalone film, I guess. So, where this topic was just who else deserves one? We're not counting them. And we're not counting Vegeta as well, because I think he's the obvious choice to have a standalone film. So every other character is up for debate.
Yeah.
So since you won, you get to go first. So what's your choice?
I'm going to go with the little green man himself. And I think the reason I've chose it is because I think it's a good... Yes, Piccolo.
Oh.
Of course.
The little green man.
Yes, well, I'm getting that. And I think it's a good choice because my idea is fitting for the upcoming film.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to link into the superhero film.
Yep.
And it will be just a short film as like a tie-in promo film.
Okay.
For his, because I think we've seen that he's going to get a new power-up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going to get a new form. But I don't think they're going to show us particularly how he got it. I think from what we've seen in the trailers, there's going to be way too much in this film. I think a lot of it is going to focus on Gohan and the Red Ribbon Army and everything like that. And I just think that it's going to be kind of a Vegeta getting his Super Saiyan moment.
Where it's off screen.
It's going to be very quick. Yeah. And he's just going to be like, look what I can do.
Well, this is kind of perfect timing because this podcast will go out the day before the film is released. So if you're right, we will very quickly find out.
Yeah, so I think it's quite fitting that I do it right now.
Yeah.
So basically, it's going to be a nice short film time to show like how he becomes who he is now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also going to be like kind of a flashback to show all the times that we haven't seen him. Because we saw him at the end of Dragon Ball being bad guy Piccolo. But basically, that was the only real time we saw him as a bad guy. And then he disappeared, Z started, and then he was not really a bad guy.
No.
He was fighting with rabbits, and then he was a good guy.
Yeah.
And that was it. So we had Demon King Piccolo's bad guy spawn. He was supposed to be a big bad, and then he was really only a bad guy for a little while. So we can get, throughout this film, we can see all this flashback to that time in between. We can see all what he was doing, all the time he was looking back on all the hatred and everything like that, how he wanted all these revenge and everything, and all his revenge on Goku, how he was building up, and he could look, he's reflecting, and this is all this time we see him, all of his meditation and everything like that, all his reflecting on his past deeds, focus on facing the evils of his father and how he's followed on from that, showing us what he's become. And we can see like all renewed flashbacks, fighting in the Tournament of Power, and basically how he's felt weak after his defeat. We can see back on like how he's looked to his own redemption, how we can look into you can see how that's thanks to Gohan, and how he's found his family and strength in that. And you can look at how he's actually it's strange that he's found strength as part of a family, because basically now he's got Pan and everything. Basically, he's become like he's part of that family now.
Yeah, he is, definitely.
And I mean, if we've seen the mini new trailer, like the tiny little teaser trailer, that I think it came out literally today.
As of recording, yeah.
Well, yeah, which is as of recording, is that Pan rings Piccolo to pick her up from school because Gohan's forgotten about her.
Yeah.
And he kicks off and goes tells off Gohan. So he's found something worth fighting for. And he's finding it strange, and he feels that he has to become strong to be part of a family, and he's using all this to build up. And so basically we get to see all these past times, and we get to see why Piccolo feels like he needs to become strong. And I think it would be really interesting to see that how we can see the past of Piccolo. We can see flashbacks and updates of all his past deeds, facing all his evils, seeing all the times where he's been missing off screen. Because I think there's been a lot of times where we haven't seen Piccolo, and we can see like all the updates, all the flashbacks of times where just all his previous fights and everything like that. And I just think it would be nice to see where this new powers came from, because I don't think we're going to see it, and I think we should be able to see it.
Yeah.
Because I think if we're going to see a new, stronger Piccolo, I think we should know why and where it came from. Because I think he's been done dirty for too long. And I think if we're going to see a strong Piccolo, we deserve to know why. Because I don't just want to see a strong Piccolo, and then if he gets battered about in this film and he's super strong, it's going to be so annoying. I'm going to be so annoyed if that's the case. And I think this is why it would only need to be a short film, like not 10 minutes or something like that, like just
like the Yo Son Goku and Friends Return. The what's Vegeta's brother called again? That one.
I can't remember his name.
Tarbell.
Yeah. Just
That's
something short, and like just so we get some new fights and everything like that. And but I think it's nothing too amazing. There's probably no big bad or anything like that. It's more of a reflection film and everything, and it's more of a tale more than anything else, and a look back on who he is, a narrative. It's more of a narrative more than anything else, and I think that would be really interesting. I think a lot of people would be interested to hear that. And I think the fights and everything that you would get from it, whilst they would just be flashback fights, and they could be fights with like 18 and an updated version of his fight from Dragon Ball and stuff like that. Yeah, like reanimated in like, even if it's in the new Super style, I think people would be, because there would be so many new viewers, like from the newer generations, stuff like that will not have seen that fight.
Well, just kind of seeing it from his point of view as well, seeing his thoughts at the time of the fight, that would be interesting enough, I think.
Yeah. And I think there'll be so many people that won't have seen the original fight with Goku. They won't really know Piccolo other from Z. There'll be so many people that won't have seen Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
And I think that to see who Piccolo really is, I think that would be really, really interesting. So they will see a big fight against Goku. And I think people will really, really be interested in that. And then they can have see a little fight with 18 and things like that. And they can see his fights. And they can see how he's felt weak, like when he got torn apart by Frieza and stuff like that. And I think just how he feels he needs to be strong with now that he has something to fight for by trying to defend his new family. Because he belongs to something now. He's never belonged to anything. And I think he really feels part of that because he's constantly with Pan and stuff like that now. That's where he is. He doesn't sit out in the desert as much anymore, is he? Yeah. Whenever you see him in Super, that's where he is. He's not hiding out in the desert. And I think that would be really cool to see. And I genuinely don't think we'll see where he got his power in the new film.
I would be surprised if they don't at least do something.
I think they'll hint at it, but I don't think they'll get into it.
I've kind of got a feeling that he will get this power from the Red Ribbon base. I think it's not going to be something he unlocks. I think he might be injected with something to achieve it. That's my opinion, I guess, because they've hinted that there's a new big bad apart from the Gammas.
Yeah.
Whoever's inside this egg thing, whatever. People are thinking it's Cell. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, who knows. But I think they've got some sort of serum or something to create whatever's in here. And I feel like maybe they inject Piccolo with it and that's how he gets his new form. Just a feeling, who knows. But I think they will show. I don't think it's going to be something he unlocked. I think it's going to be given, if that makes sense.
That would be disappointing, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, just because I think if Piccolo was to get a new form now, I feel like he would have got it already. Like, is there really anything? Like, he is an Namekian after all. He isn't. He doesn't transform all the time like Saiyans. He can't unlock more and more and more. So I feel like it's got to be given to him. It's not something he can unlock, if that makes sense. Otherwise, we would have seen it already. So that's what I'm kind of thinking might happen.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say that, but I mean, literally, Saiyans did become gods.
That's true. That's true. But I guess we'll find out the day. Tomorrow, as of uploading this.
Yeah, I mean, the Saiyans, they had this legend of the Super Saiyan. And I mean, it was built into their lore. That was something that was always expected. And I suppose building on the Super Saiyan, there was never really a restriction of how strong a Super Saiyan could be. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Then Battle of the Gods came round, and there was a brand new lore introduced out of nowhere that they didn't know they could unlock without this entire mechanism being built in of the 5 Saiyans. Like, they had to do this whole new thing that they didn't know existed. So there was specifically something they had to do. So that came out of nowhere. So there's always a way to unlock something if it's introduced.
I just thought it's going to be like the Scott Pilgrim film, isn't it? Like, Piccolo unlock the power of love.
Yeah. So I think it would be really cool if we find a way that Vegeta, with Piccolo, he finds something he finally believes he has worth fighting for, and we get to see his past and how he reflects, and he finds something worth fighting for, and that's where his strength comes from.
Yeah.
He always wanted to be strong, and whilst that's made him strong, his ability to reflect and see that having something worth fighting for is what pushes him over the edge. And I would like to see that. I think I'll be disappointed if in the actual film itself, as a side note, is he just given power. I'm always disappointed in any film. Given power, not earned power.
Yeah, I mean,
it's always disappointing.
It has happened multiple times throughout Dragon Ball already, which is why I don't put it past them doing it again. Like unlocking Ultimate Gohan and giving power to, well, I guess Gohan and Krillin again by the Elder Guru, that type of stuff. It's happened before, and no one's been forced an upgrade, I guess, by injection or whatever. So this is why I think maybe they could do something like that. Who knows? But we'll find out very, very soon, I guess. Yeah. But solid pitch anyway. So mine, I wrote a full film synopsis here. And the character that I would like to see get a stand-up film is Tien. And I think if this went to box office, it would flop because no one really cares about Tien, to be honest. Which is a shame, but this is how it is going forward. I think, yes, it's fine to have a stand-up film for Gohan, and even Piccolo to an extent as well, because he's such a popular character. But if it's not the Saiyans, and it's not Piccolo, I don't think anyone else can have a standout solo film at this point, because it just wouldn't do well, no matter who else it could be. Even if it was a villain, I don't think Hit could have a standout film on his own, just because we need the main cast. I don't think anyone else, even Jiren or Toppo, I don't think they could have their own solo films, you know? I think it would be someone else with them, always. So, that's it, yeah, pretty much. But anyway.
I did have a backup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we can get to that. But, this Tien film, anyway, this is what I think should happen. So I'll just explain it and then sum it up at the end, I guess. And it will be long. But the way I think is so it begins with Tien training people in his dojo to become more powerful and to learn how to use ki, pretty much. And I think there's going to be 2 standout students, 2 who are above everyone else that he's training, so he starts to train these separately. And he realizes, okay, out of everyone, you 2 have potential. So I'm going to focus more on training you guys. And I even named them for argument's sake. You know, I gave them Dragon Ball names, so I'm going to name them Baruch and Comb. Because airbrush, comb. They're both going to be bald because they're students of Tien. So, of course, they're not going to have hair. It's funny. That's the whole point. So, yeah, the two students, Baruch and Comb, they stand out more and they become stronger and stronger and stronger. And this happens until Comb starts to fall behind a bit. And he's not keeping up at the level that Baruch is getting. And because of this, Tien's constantly praising Baruch for becoming better and better. And he's telling Comb, like, yeah, come on, you need to try and catch up. You need to be more like him. You need to be more powerful. Just look at what Baruch is doing. You need to copy him. And this starts to irritate Comb to the point where he quits. He's like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. He starts getting angry and annoyed at the fact that Tien's berating him. So he quits, and he knows he's already strong. He can already use Ki. Like, both of these guys have already learned Ki at this point. He's just fallen behind a little bit. So he goes out and he finds Master Shen, the Crane Hermit, who was, the one who previously trained Tien. And he goes to him and he starts telling him, like, I hate Tien. I've been training with him. He thinks I'm not good enough. I know I'm good enough. And Master Shen's telling him, like, yes, this is what I wanted. I've waited years to get my revenge on Tien. This is what I wanted. And so they begin to train together. Master Shen is now training Comb. He has the same gi that Tien used to wear and stuff. He's training him to be a crane hermit. Well, a crane student, at least, anyway. And as they're training, they think, okay, we need someone else to join in. We need someone else who is strong. Because, at this point, Crane isn't strong. He is able to teach him new techniques and moves, but he's not strong enough to fight. And, of course, if they go in and try and attack, there's Tien, there's Baruch as well, who's also this new student who's powerful. They need someone else. And so they start scouting the area and they see, some disturbances in the city. So they go to investigate, thinking, okay, there might be someone powerful here who we can train. And as they arrive, they find Launch, who is robbing a bank. And they kidnap her and take her back to the base to try and explain the plan to her. And they don't know who Launch is. They just see this woman who's single-handedly robbing a bank. And they know she's kind of strong. So they try to explain the plan and they want to train in martial arts to become strong. Because she is destructive and she can cause damage with weapons. But hand-to-hand combat, she's pretty weak. So she agrees to train. And surprisingly, she's a very quick learner. And she manages to catch up to speed with Comb quite quickly, which again annoys Comb a little bit, but not that much. He's just a little bit annoyed that someone is actually a really quick learner. And Launch manages to master Ki as well. She can now use Ki. So, Master Shen, after training them for a while, thinks they're strong enough. We can go attack now. So they head over to Tien's dojo, and when they arrive, they start sending ki blasts into the buildings, tearing it apart and stuff. And, they start taking out the weak students, just sending ki blasts their way. The people who haven't mastered ki yet, they just start destroying them one by one. And, this makes Tien, Chaozu, and Baruch come out of wherever they are to come investigate, like, what's going on here? Why is the temple under attack? And they first see Comb and wonder what the hell he's doing and why he's back. And then Master Shen reveals himself as well and explains that he's been waiting such a long time to take them out once and for all. And he now has his new master student in Comb who's going to do that. And then out comes Launch, who was hiding behind the two at the time. And she comes out and Tien and Chaozu both recognize her instantly because, of course they will. They know her.
It's Launch.
Yeah, it's Launch. This character who's been gone for so long. Of course they recognize her. And they also very quickly realize, oh, she's got blonde hair. And they're like, yeah, she doesn't really recognize them. She doesn't know who they are because she's blonde. And when she's blonde, she's a bit irrational and stuff.
Just a bit irrational.
Just a bit erratic and stuff as well. But yeah, they're trying to communicate with her. And they realize that it's not really working. And this is where the fight begins. We have Tien versus Comb and Baruch versus Launch. We don't get straight into Launch going after Tien because we're saving that for now. But yeah, this we want because with all the other Dragon Ball films, it's fully focused now on the beam blasts and all that type of stuff. This film and the fights are going to be purely on martial arts. That's the whole point. That's Tien's dojo. Yes, they can use ki, but that's not their main focus. The hand-to-hand combat is their bread and butter, pretty much. So it's going to be similar to OG Dragon Ball with a lot of focus on martial arts, and it's going to be great. I think it's been a long time since we've seen fights build up like that. So I think this could be a really nice throwback. And these original fights end with Tien being the strongest, of course, out of the four that are there fighting. He takes out Comb, whilst Launch defeats Baruch. So both of the students are down, pretty much. Tien tries to talk some sense into Launch, but it doesn't work. And because of this, they begin to fight. And he tries multiple times to try and make her sneeze. Because he knows if she sneezes, she'll turn back and maybe he can, actually talk to her properly then. But because Launch has been trained and she's strong and she's kind of in control, she knows that if she sneezes, she's going to go back to being weak again. And because of this, she's got new techniques to block any potential attempts to make her sneeze, if that makes sense. I don't know, whatever he tries. Maybe throwing stuff in her face to try and sniff something up to sneeze or whatever, or just try and attack the nose to try and cause something. Who knows? But anyway, whatever he tries, he's just failing because she keeps avoiding it. And because it's Tien, and Tien is strong after all, he will be stronger than all of these, he does begin to wear her down. And Launch begins to get a bit okay, I need to do something here. So she resorts back to using weapons again. And she of course has brought weapons with her. And she brings out multiple guns. And, Tien's able to avoid the blast, the shots from the weapons, the guns. But Chaozu gets shot in the process. So Chaozu's down, and Tien's, he's a bit annoyed, irate at this point. He's like, you've shot Chaozu, Chaozu's down. He's not out, but he's down. And he starts to fully overpower Launch. He takes her down, he starts to beat her up, and, you're thinking, oh, is Tien gonna, kill Launch? Is that what he's going for here? And just when it looks like he is at that point where he's gonna do the finishing blow, he manages to make a sneeze. All of a sudden, he just does something, make a sneeze instantly, maybe just pokes her in the nose or whatever. Final last minute shot, when you think he's going in for the kill and blow, he does something to make a sneeze. And it works, she switches back to Bluehead Launch, and she's confused and dazed and doesn't really know what's going on, because it seems like she's been blonde for quite a long time at this point. So it's been a while, and yeah. She turns back, she's confused, but she recognizes Tien instantly and hugs him straight away because they're right together, and she's the first person he's the first person that she sees. She's happy to see him again, so she goes in for a hug. And because Tien's a bit caught off guard at this point, Comb takes the advantage. He's been down this whole time because he's just fought with Tien and lost. He's been down, but he picks up a rocket launcher. Well, no, he doesn't pick up a rocket launcher. He picks up a gun and fires it at Tien, and he hits him. Tien gets hit by the gun, and he goes down as well, because of course Tien is just human after all, so he would be hurt by gunfire. So he's down as well, he's hurt, and Launch is confused, doesn't really know what to do, as Shen and Comb advance, with Comb now holding a rocket launcher, and he's ready to completely blow up the temple and Tien and Chaozu and Baruch as well, I guess, at this point. But Baruch manages to crawl over to Launch and explains what's going on, because she's completely lost at this point. She's got no idea. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know what's going on. And Baruch explains that, look, you've been taught how to use ki by Master Shen, and you're actually a pretty strong fighter. You need to do something. He's hurt. He's been hurt. He's down because of Launch, I guess. Launch did, yeah. But he's like, you did this to me. You can fight. This is possible. You know how to use ki. You can control it. You've just got to believe. And yeah, as Comb has the rocket launcher, he's ready to fire it. He does fire it, and Launch is struggling. She's I don't know what to do. And then she hits Tri-Beam. Boom. Hits it right as the rocket comes out. She hits the rocket with a Tri-Beam. And, you know, this sends, like, Master Shen and Comb flying. You know, they explode because of the rocket launcher. And, yeah, that's how the fight kind of ends. She runs over to Tien. She sees how hurt he is and tries to heal him. Chaozu's also kind of fine, but also hurt. So she decides she wants to stay in the dojo to just heal and look after them. And the film ends where, you know, there's some sort of gathering again with all the group. You know, everyone's like just all chill because they don't know what's been going on. This film's fully being focused on Tien. And Tien arrives with Launch, who is now fully able to control her powers because she's been staying at the dojo and Tien's been teaching her. So she can control Ki as well, and she can fly, and she lands alongside, and the gang's just surprised to see her again, and they're all happy and like, oh my god, it's Launch, and they can't believe it.
Yeah, Launch.
Yeah, and I think it'll just be a happy ending, and you know, Tien and Launch will be together in the dojo, just training alongside. It gives something for Tien to do, and it brings Launch back. And it also brings Master Shen back as well for his final send-off, since he isn't dead. You know, they kind of tried this within Dragon Ball Super already by bringing Yurin in, who was a student of Master Shen. That's what it said. Like, she was a student of Master Shen, and that's why she went to the dojo to try and take out Tien. So this is kind of along the similar lines, but new characters instead. And
That was an odd episode.
It was an odd episode because Master Roshi kind of defeated her more than anyone else. But yeah, it shows that Master Shen is still alive. We just haven't seen him in a long, long time. This brings him back as the villain, I guess, along with two new characters, and it also brings back Launch as well. So I think it would be good. Nice mix. Yeah.
I'm a fan of that. It's kind of an old school episode.
Yeah.
Sorry, an old school throwback, not so much episode.
Yeah.
School throwback.
I think the fights would be cool just to see them in martial arts style instead of beam blasts and stuff.
Yeah, like a actual Dragon Ball style.
Yeah.
Plus you get Launch back.
Yeah.
Launch.
Yeah, and I think it just makes sense to be a TN film just because we're not going to have any big villains who are strong anymore for any lower characters, because, you know, we could just have Goku or Vegeta or anyone stronger to come in and just go, yeah, you're dead, bye. And that's it. Whereas a villain strong enough for Tien, which isn't a threat for anyone else who he can deal with, I think that's good enough. And having it be one of his former students, just another twist to it.
I think there wouldn't be any reason for it to catch any of the bigger characters' attention either.
Yeah.
Things would be quiet and happen quick enough for it just to be dealt with then. Like, they just walk up and attack. It wouldn't catch their attention. Like, there wouldn't be any huge key explosions or anything like that. That would, if Goku and Vegeta were off planet training with Whis, it wouldn't catch the level of key that was being used. Wouldn't catch their attention, so they wouldn't teleport back or anything like that if they were off planet. So yeah, it would be something that the Z Warriors would have to, the typical Z Warriors would have to deal, the Super Warriors, would have to deal with themselves. So no, yeah, it makes perfect sense that they would have to deal with it, and people like Tien would deal with it in martial arts more than anything else. So it makes more sense that they would deal with it in that manner.
Exactly, and it gives a nice throwback, and maybe, you know, Master Shen has learned a few new tricks here and there and can teach Boom, in this case, I guess, some new forms or new techniques that he can use in fights. I don't know, I think the fighting would be cool in this. It would be very different to what we're used to now, at least. And yeah, bringing back Launch.
I think it would also be very cool with the new art styles as well. Which I think would be very nice. It'd be very clean.
Yeah.
Because I think when they do use the right animation styles, I think the choreography can be very, again, clean. I think it can look very good.
Yeah.
So to see prolonged, like in the Broly films and that, it's just so good. Like, it just looks, there wasn't a single part of the Broly film that I just disliked. When it came to the fights, I just loved all of it. So when they try and when they commit, it's just beautiful fights.
Yeah.
So no, in the new art styles, I think it could look very good. when it's pure martial arts.
Yeah, I agree, and I would love to see Launch back as well. She deserves it. She did nothing wrong. Um,
They
but
did it dirty.
yeah, what was your back? I didn't have a backup option. I was fully invested in this, but
Yeah. No,
I seen
I
quickly
mean,
mentioned.
I didn't have a plot, because obviously I committed my plot to. I'm not that committed to the choice, but it's like if I had a character that I would have committed a film to, it would have probably been a Bulma, a
Ooh,
film.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, she's again, she's one of the main Dragon Ball characters.
Hmm.
That basically, the entirety of Dragon Ball would focus around.
Yeah.
And again, Dragon Ball couldn't exist without.
Mhm.
So you could focus any Dragon Ball story around her, without difficulty. You could put her into any of the Dragon Ball series, whether it's
Mm.
Dragon Ball Z or Super, it wouldn't matter. So I think it wouldn't be difficult to make a film that would be focused around her and her engineering, her science, and you would just then involve other characters around her
Mm.
and make her as the focus. I don't think that would be particularly difficult
Yeah.
to do. And again, you could focus on how she became who she is.
Mhm.
You could focus on then like the Dragon Radar, her stories around that, her adventures, and then you could do like the meeting of Goku and feed on from there. And again, it's for the new generations, who wouldn't have seen the original Dragon Ball, and just refresh it,
Mhm.
and leading on and just build up who she is. Because again, I don't think there's a lot. There are so many people who haven't seen the original Dragon Balls, and I think throwing back to that and bringing it back in, I think is a good idea,
Yeah.
because there are going to be a lot of people who aren't going to watch Dragon Ball
Mhm.
because they aren't into the older animation.
Yeah.
And I think that is important that they see the original characters for who they are.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's a bad idea to include that.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, you could easily have it be focused on her, but then also just have a big fight anyway, where she has made something new to benefit the fight or something like that. So that's just still involved. Because I think with a Dragon Ball film, you would need to have a fight.
Oh
And
yeah,
obviously, since she doesn't, she would still need to do something to involve herself, like creating something, a weapon or a device or something that needs to be used to defeat the villain.
yeah, like defend her while she sorts something.
Hmm.
Like the world's gonna end, and she has to create something to stop that. Um, Based on what this person's trying to do.
Yeah.
Like an enemy's created something that is going to end the world if she doesn't stop it. But
Hmm.
obviously, the big bad's going to stop her from doing that.
Yeah.
And then Goku and Vegeta have to stop the bad from stopping her.
Hmm.
What's that?
Yeah.
Um,
No, I'll be for that. I guess I did have another idea, but it would be something completely different where it's kind of like, when a show goes off air and then it comes back 20 years later as a reimagining, or like this is what happened before this show that happened, that type of thing.
yeah.
I would kind of like to see a film of a young Master Roshi, Master Shen, and Grandpa Gohan all doing their thing.
Well, didn't they get defeated by who was it? Was it who did they get defeated by? Was it originally?
I can't remember.
At the start of Dragon Ball, they were originally defeated by, was it Demon King Piccolo? The
Maybe.
original master. The original master, because then didn't they all separate and then go into hiding?
That might have
for a
been the
while?
case.
Yeah. Like what happened in between that time frame?
Yeah.
Or
I just want to see them growing up and becoming powerful and actually being young. Their adventures as young people, you know? Because
Yeah.
especially we've seen the designs of how Master Roshi looks, at least anyway. And he looks like a cool guy. But it's like, I want to know, was he actually a ladies' man when he was younger? What type of stuff did he do? What were his fights that made him so strong? That type of stuff.
Because
I think that'd be
yeah,
cool.
didn't they because it was Master Shen.
Hmm.
It was, I'm trying to remember, because obviously I'm not a huge Dragon Ball aficionado. Old when Master Roshi was a young monk, and was it Master Shen was a young monk,
Hmm.
and they were serving under their master. They tried to defeat, I think it was original Demon King Piccolo, but they didn't do very well.
It might have been.
Yeah, and they separated, and this was when Master Shen and Master Roshi separated when they were young monks. The time in between until Master Roshi then became old, what was happening in between that time frame?
Yeah.
All that,
cool.
a long time, because that's a long time frame. You could see what he was doing in between then.
Yeah, because I guess you kind of find out, because I'm guessing young Roshi, he did look cool. He was always interesting. He probably was a ladies' man.
Mhm.
So I want to know how he got from that to living on his own on a private island, separated from everyone. Like,
Yeah.
what made him be like that?
Yeah, there's a big time gap between young monk Roshi to old turtle hermit. So
Yeah.
there's obviously a lot in there that you could do.
Yeah. Learning the Kamehameha, how he manages to do it, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
so easy.
Yeah, but that was kind of my backup, I guess. But I was happy with Tian. I think he deserves one. But yeah, I guess this has been a bit of a longer segment, but those are the two options anyway. So my pick was Tian trying to, like, I don't know, get a launch back, and yours
Defend
was
his dojo.
yeah, and yours was Piccolo. And kind
Gaining
of
his new power.
yeah, getting his new power and showing flashbacks to previous fights.
Yeah.
So those are the two options. Only one can enter the Hall of Fame, though. So who deserves their own standalone film more? Is it Tiana or is it Piccolo? You decide. And there is links in the description down below to the polls where you can vote, and only one will enter the Hall of Fame next week. But that's going to be it for this segment, so let's move on now to the hot take.
Oh.
Hot take.
So this is the hot take, the final segment of the podcast where I have deep dived into the troll posts of the internet to find something controversial, a hot take, you may say, regarding Dragon Ball. And this week I found a juicy one, and it's a bit short, 2 sentences, but I thought it was interesting enough to talk about anyway. So this person has wrote, "The Dragon Ball universe as it is more interesting as a whole for future possibilities compared to the arcs that have already been written for the anime."
Ooh.
Nice and sweet.
So they've specified for the anime.
Well, yeah, I guess so, because the manga is still ongoing and we don't know what's coming up next. But as far as we have seen in the show, we know the arcs. We know the other possibilities that can happen with the universes that have been created, with all the characters that have been created. They just haven't explored them yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he's going with, where there's so many possibilities for things to do, and there's so many more interesting things that can happen that are probably more interesting than the things that have happened.
I would probably agree, because basically now they have all the universes. They have the God Key to it. They have the gods to explore and everything like that. Whereas in your original Dragon Ball, I would have said you were done for the most part.
Yeah.
Original Dragon Ball ended where it should have ended.
Yeah.
I think it was a very healthy end. They should have ended Dragon Ball. That was fine.
Yeah.
I think anything else would have been unhealthy. They'd done lots of tournament arcs. It was just good. They ended on a big bad, and it was good. When they restarted Z, they totally changed it. They said, "Look, this is an entirely new thing. Almost, it's a totally different show." And they massively changed the scope, and they did it well, and that's why people accepted it. They introduced the Saiyans, they introduced aliens and everything, and nobody can say they're even remotely the same show, and I agree that they're not. So when you've introduced the alien side of things, they then went to Namek and everything like that, and they slowly opened the scope with the alien side of things, but they still made it difficult to go to space. They only had one spaceship and everything like that, so they didn't just zip out and do whatever they want.
Mhm.
They still mostly were contained to Earth.
Mhm.
So anything that was happening was still happening on Earth for the most part. You still
Yeah.
had Cell and everything like that. You still had Boo. Everything was still happening on Earth.
Mhm.
So scope was limited to a degree. You had future, but still, it was still on Earth.
Yeah.
You couldn't, and just going out to the future all the time would have been very boring and very repetitive. So, and stepping into tournaments would have been repetitive because it had already been done in previous Dragon Ball.
Mm.
So, I think there was a limited scope, and a lot of people think that Dragon Ball Z should have finished with Cell.
Mm.
So, I think again, stepping into Boo, and again, there's a lot of controversy with whether or not Boo should have happened full stop.
Yeah.
So Z was actually coming to an end,
Mhm.
natural end. So with Super, people don't really have that feeling yet.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people have got the feel. People want more Super.
Because of the amount of new characters that they brought in, and we
Yeah.
haven't seen enough of them yet.
Yeah, people want more, and they feel like there's enough scope for there to be more.
Yeah.
People don't feel like there's a natural end yet,
Mhm.
and I fully agree that there's not. Broly's happened, and people are still waiting and everything like that, and they're like, okay, so we've had Broly, and Broly was great, but the tournament of power's ending, and we want to know like what's happening after the tournament of power. Like, so are we going to new universes now? Is Broly going to be involved in that part of the universes? And all we've gotten is we've got this new film, and what we want to know now is the people from this new film, are they going to be involved in our next step into the anime? So we literally have an expectation for the anime to continue. So we expect it to continue. Whereas with Z, we were expecting it to end and got more, and we kind of almost didn't want to. We were comfortable with the end, and when it did continue, we weren't really sure if we needed it to.
Yeah.
And a lot of us didn't like we got some cool moments, but a lot of it we weren't. A lot of it felt wrong almost.
Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned it, the scope, because with Dragon Ball, I agree. At the end of Dragon Ball, it wasn't really up. Like, we had Goku now a bit older, and the entire gang, I guess, at that point, a bit older. So the only scope there is what's next. But also, they could have ended it and just basically, fairy tale ending is Goku got married and they all lived happily ever after, and that could have been an end. It was fine to end like that. With Z, the possibilities all kind of played out how they did. And at the end, after the Boo saga, there was like, is there anything that has happened so far where we could backtrack and say, maybe we can find out more about this, maybe we can find out more about this? And the only things I can think of is Planet Yardrat, because Goku goes there to learn instant transmission, and we don't know anything about that. So, that is an open thing we know about. There's the new Namek, where the Namekians are now, and so we could find out a bit more about that. But apart from that, we kind of explored the Dragon Ball universe at this point. We know everything that's out there. Yes, they could have brought in new villains, but that would be completely new. It's not something we already have been hinted at or something we already know about. It would be completely new. The only thing at the end of Z was the time skip forward where they brought in Oob and a few new characters there at the tournament and stuff. And say, okay, we can, find out what happened within this time skip. We can find out more about what's happening with Oob, Goku training Oob. That can be something. But for the most part, when Dragon Ball Z ended, that was all that people were thinking about, is what's happening with Oob, what's next. When Super came along, they introduced new universes and all of these new characters in each universe. And obviously, Champers universe is the one that's been explored the most so far. Bringing in the likes of Hit, Kaba, Kale, Caulifla, that type of thing. And we know more about them, but also them alone are characters we haven't really explored too much. We don't know much about their planet, like the Saiyans as a whole on their planet. We know they're not as strong as the Universe 7 Saiyans, but we know they are Saiyans and they still fight and stuff. We don't know much more about them though. There's the possibility, like it's already been mentioned, of Vegeta going to visit and that type of thing. And with Hit, an international assassin, well, universal assassin who takes out all of his targets, I want to find out more about him. I want to see his true power limit, that type of stuff. And then, of course, there's all of the other universes that took part in the Tournament of Power, and they also hinted at two universes being too strong for the Tournament of Power, which we don't know any of the characters. We don't know what they're like, how strong these universes are. There's possibilities for them to go to their universes, and just see just how strong. Because at the minute, the strongest character is arguably Jiren. He was the strongest in Tournament of Power, and he was the biggest threat, and they managed to defeat him. These other two universes that were hinted at, they are stronger. They've already said they are stronger universes. So it's like, that leaves the possibilities of what can happen next. We can explore them. We can even go back and explore the Pride Troopers a bit more, their universe, and all the other universes. There's so much like story that can happen that hasn't happened. And yeah, I also agree with this take. Like, there is some good arcs that have happened, but they had a whole arc for Frieza again. And when you think, you had Frieza again, which is great, he was a great villain, but also, you could have had an arc going anywhere. There's so much possibilities. So yeah, I agree.
I think, for the most part, the Frieza arc was an exposition arc for me, more than anything else. I think
bit of fan service, bringing them back again.
But I think the introduction of gods was what allowed Super to happen.
Yeah, it expanded so much because of that.
Yeah. They couldn't have really done that in Super, in Z, really.
The Kais were already a level above, thinking, oh my god, there's Kais of the universe? Like, what?
Yeah, like the Kais, I suppose you can put them in the god in a way, but you needed the Beerus film. Yeah, that was what the full reset was. That was what the Super introduction was. To put that in Z would have been odd. You needed to stop Z. It was just too grand a scale. You needed to stop, shut down, breathe, and then say Super is this new thing, because Z is that's the difference between Dragon Ball was this little martial arts thing. Z was this much grander scale of, okay, you've had this little martial arts. Z is aliens, big thing with lots of ki blast and everything like that. Super is, again, the next tier. It's like the next show is a tier every time. And I think that's where it went. It's like Dragon Ball, aliens for Z, and then Super is gods. And it's like you have to step up with the next show.
Yeah.
Like, if they ever did another show again, it would have to be another step up. And I don't know how they did that. So I think Super will be the last one. If they ever did a show, there won't be another Dragon Ball show.
No, I agree. And I see it in a similar way. I see Dragon Ball as Goku trying to stop evil organizations / Piccolo from taking over the Earth. Then Dragon Ball Z was a step up, trying to stop people from destroying the Earth. And then Super was trying to stop people from destroying the universe now instead.
Yeah, there won't be another Dragon Ball show.
Yeah.
This is top. This is the highest tier. So gods would not have fit in Z, like true gods. I know the Kais exist, but they weren't recognized as gods the way we see them in Super.
Yeah.
And I think Beerus was the true introduction to gods in Super, in the Dragon Ball universe, and that's how we then stepped into it. Now, like, you weren't fighting the Kais, were you? Like, you're fighting people like Beerus, and they just wouldn't have fit in the Z. And now we have some true scope with our universes, with our angels and everything like that. You cannot see angels in Z. And I think that the scope is ridiculous. Like, we have heavenly beings in Super. And I think, like you say, we've got so much more, such a grand scope, because we've got so many other places that we can go now. We have other universes that we can literally step into. And I just think yeah, there are tournaments we can have with. We've literally had a tournament with what 6 or 7 other universes, something like that. Like, I think there is much more scope of what we can explore, and I just think we couldn't have went anywhere else. Z was done.
Yeah.
Anything else was stretching out.
Mhm.
Dragon Ball was done. People expect more from Super. We are waiting on Super.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever been the case. People weren't waiting with the other Dragon Ball shows. We were ready for them to be done.
Yeah. So I have a strong hope for more Dragon Ball Super, just because the manga is ongoing, and there's already been new villains introduced, and I think it's just a matter of time. I think once they get far enough ahead with the manga where they feel comfortable enough to make the show, then it will come back again. But yeah, I don't think it's done yet. There's too many possibilities out there. Like this take says, like, it is far more interesting. There's too much left that is unexplored for the story to end. And I know that Toriyama likes to be in control and he decides the story, but he has other writers now, and there's other people contributing to the show more than just he was originally anyway. And I think it's only a matter of time before he kind of steps down a bit and lets these other writers kind of take charge and lets them flow with his work. And once that happens, he isn't the lead animator anymore. And especially with this upcoming film, it's no longer even 2D work. He isn't an animator for the new movie, for the superhero. It's all 3D models now, which is not his style at all. And if that's the way the show is going, if future iterations of Super turn into this 3D style, I wouldn't be against it, but it also leaves it open for, yeah, it can follow Toriyama's story if he wants to, but since it's not his art style anymore, why not also let other writers write as well?
I'll reserve judgment on the art style until I've seen the film, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. But from the trailers, I don't mind it.
The more trailer I'm seeing, like when I'm seeing Gohan, I'm okay with it. But I think when I'm seeing Piccolo and stuff like that, I'm not so sure. Gohan seems all right.
Yeah.
But it's like the background and the environment I'm not too keen on.
I don't mind it just because they kind of already tried it with previous games like Dragon Ball Fighters and the Kakarot game and that stuff. That was all 3D models, whereas previously everything was 2D on the show and stuff. And they've incorporated that more in the games and then branched it out with the Broly film that was partly 3D. And now this superhero film is full 3D, and that could just be the way that Dragon Ball is going, and I'm not against it, because if you compare it to modern day shows, like cartoons and animes especially, a lot more are just 3D anyway, because that's just the way shows are going. Not as many shows are just 2D in the same style as original Dragon Ball and Z, especially. So they're just getting with the times a bit more, and I'm not against it. And just because I love the characters that much, I'm not against the art style changing, because it has before. I'm more invested in the characters than the art style, so I'm fully for it.
No, I think, again, I'll reserve judgment until I won't stop watching or anything just because of that. It's just I obviously have a preference.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of, I'm very curious to see if they do just continue with the anime, if they're just going to step straight into the Moro arc. I would be very interested to see if that's just the direction they're going to go. If just they're going to have like the Galactic Patrol stuff and just Moro, and they're just waiting to see if they can just animate all that.
Potentially.
That would be very interesting, I think. But we'll see.
We will.
I don't know what they'll step into personally.
Yeah. As far as this take goes, though, I think we're both in agreement where, yes, there is a lot of room for improvement. Well, not improvement, but there's a lot of room for future, and the scope is huge, and there could be a lot better stories than what have already been discussed, just based on what is out there.
Because I mean, it's been just as long as the other shows so far, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, so there's no expectation for an ending. So I think it's had as much time, and there's still as much more. So
Yeah.
I think it's got its staying power. I don't think it's not a case of it's had less time, and it's literally had just as much time.
Exactly.
So I think it's got staying power.
Yeah, so we're both in agreement. We agree with this take, and I think that's a good place to wrap up the podcast. So,
Yeah.
if you stuck around this far, then congratulations, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, then please like up the video, subscribe down below if you haven't already. Go check out the polls in the description for the Hall of Fame, and we will find out next week who enters the Hall of Fame. But other than that, we will see you next time.
See ya.